Hi there, my name is John Stevens, pastor of Zion Lutheran Church in Oregon City, Oregon, and we're part of the ELCA, and welcome to Dollar Store Children's Sermons, where we take a look at the lectionary text. We tie them to an item from the Dollar Tree. This is for the narrative lectionary, and we're finishing up the book of Ruth. We're looking at the 4th chapter, and the commentator in the commentary titles this New Life. And I like it, and this idea of new life overflowing. And the end of Ruth, as is pointed out, ends with the genealogy, and the genealogy leads it down how God's loving kindness and God's love and grace and abundance flows out throughout time, and you see that Ruth follows it down to David, and then for us that would follow it even further down to Christ. That as God's promise is weaving into to the created world, that God's promise grows out, and I love that. I'm going to pull up the text just because I want to here, because it gives all of this list, starts off, and then it ends with Jesse of David and the shoot out of Jesse and all those wonderful things. So it reminds me of a story, and the story actually has to do with a Bible translator who was translating, and I forget the country and I forget the details, but how so many of us in the United States, and especially I think of when I was a kid, I just thought my people came from Idaho. You know, I mean, I had no idea about all of this connection, about all of where my ancestors came from. Well, as this Bible translator was translating and was teaching, who was a missionary and teaching all of this, they would leave out the genealogy because to us, or to that person, to me, it ends up getting boring. You hear all the name after name after name after name, and you just glaze over. Well, there's one point as he's teaching it and gets to the point where he this time just reads the Matthew genealogy, and they stop and they say, "Why haven't you told us this before? I mean, this makes Jesus real, this connection to all of this history of faith." And I think about Ruth, and I think about all of this connection, and I think about how God's love overflows, and it's connected, and about how you and I, when we are in the gift of baptism, we are connected to this full tree, this family tree of faith. So, the item I'm using, I was looking through the Dollar Tree, and one of the items I found, it's not exactly where I would go with, but I'm looking at the Sunny Area Wildflower Blend. And I like the idea of growing, of seeds, of scattering it, and as it scatters and it comes up, and how the flowers then also give seeds, and maybe a dandelion, as the dandelion grows, and you blow the dandelion and the seeds go everywhere. So this idea of this kindness and this faith and this connection of faith as it goes through. So that's one idea. Another idea is to talk about family trees. Maybe your church directory, if you have a physical church directory, you can open that up, and about how we are all connected to one another in the faith. And that's this genealogy as God's kindness goes through and God's love and grace goes through the church. Perhaps at some Dollar Trees they have a learning area, and it's kind of the Dollar Tree, this idea of the tree and the family tree and being connected. But it's all about how we are ultimately drawn together and connected by this love and grace of our God. And that is a good and a wonderful thing. So that's the direction I'm going, about how we are connected in the waters of baptism, how God connects us, and how we are connected to the overall promise of God's love, God's hesed, God's loving kindness. So hope that can be a springboard for you for your own thinking. As always, thanks for stopping by, and I hope you have a fantastic week.